Hello, folks. Hello. Please, I know what you're saying. Matt, what in the world are you doing? Are you trying to play the character Quato from the movie Total Recall with Arnold Schwarzenegger in 1990? Remember that crazy movie? No, folks. This isn't Quato, okay? I'm paying homage with this silliness to the first ever Paul McCartney album, solo, 1970. All right, enough with the silliness, folks. Enough with the silliness. I'll take off the garments. Okay, folks. Basically, folks, that's my little crazy introduction to Matt Mangles McCartney. Yes, my new little series, which it may not happen every week. It may happen twice a week. It could be a couple of months. I don't know yet. I just know that I feel this desire to go through every Paul McCartney solo effort from this one in 1970, McCartney, all the way up to Egypt Station. Now, these are not going to be straight review videos. I'm not going to throw stats at you. There's no research here. I'm not going to be talking about chart placings or sales or exact dates of when it got released. This has nothing to do with that. This is a little bit review, a little bit emotion, a little bit personal thoughts, some storytelling, just my personal experiences with each of Paul's albums, okay? And I hope you'll enjoy it. It's going to be shooting from the hip. Like I say, no script, just feelings and emotions thrown at you. And yeah, you'll get a little taste for how I feel about each album. I mean, obviously, as I talk about them, but my purpose is not to do a formal review, so to speak. It's just basically to talk about how I feel about them, and maybe you'll feel the same, or maybe you'll feel differently. That's what makes this fun. So I'm going to start with the first album, which is McCartney, released in 1970, and share some of my personal history with it. My first memory of this album goes back to spring, or I want to say late spring 1970. Now, as you know, I've told you in past videos, my mom, both my parents were very supportive as far as music. You've seen videos with my dad. Well, my mom was very into music as well, and very supportive of her children's interest in music, as my dad was. And she used to take me to this local department store called Zayre's, which was in the Northeast United States back in the old days. Kind of like a Target, kind of like a Walmart, one of those places. Well, she used to take me once in a while. My dad used to bring me records from when he worked in Boston. Well, my mom used to take me to stores to buy records with my allowance money, or if I had some holiday or birthday money, I could get records. And you may have seen a video I did way, way, way back where she took me to the store to buy my first ever record on my own, and that was the Hey Jude album in very early 1970. Well, several months later, we were back at that store, and I was again picking out another record album. We go to the rack at this place of new releases and stuff, and I remember honing in on both Let It Be and this album, which were out about the same time. And let me say this, that I had no idea at the time that the Beatles had broken up. I didn't. I mean, I was too young. I think I was 8 or 9 at the time. And I just knew Beatles, Beatles, Beatles. And when I saw this, I looked at it as more of a curio. Like, I didn't understand why Paul was alone on an album cover like this, because he looks similar on this album cover as he does on the Let It Be cover, with the beard, so I didn't know the time difference, that was way back in early 69, and this was 1970 when Linda took this one. I didn't understand that. I just saw the Let It Be cover, all the new albums of Let It Be, and I saw this one, among other new releases that were there at the time, but I honed in on those two. They both had black themed covers, Let It Be and this one, as you can see, and Paul looks similar in both, and I didn't understand why. There he is with the Beatles on the Let It Be cover, and why is he on this one by himself? I didn't get it. I just remember having those feelings like, that's funny. Well, anyway, I picked the Let It Be album that day. She allowed me to get one album per visit, so I picked Let It Be, obviously, It wasn't until later that I had an experience with this album again, and it was later in 1970. I want to say like going into the fall now, 1970. I was at my cousin's house, and as you know, if you've watched, my 3 older cousins, one is 2 years older than me, one is 5 years older than me, and one is 9 years older than me, 3 boys. We used to go over their house all the time and visit. They're the ones, along with my parents, who turned me on to the Beatles and music, and especially the Beatles. They were big into the Beatles, showing me their records and stuff. And I remember my youngest cousin, who was about 2 years older than me, so he would have been about 11 at the time. He had this album out when we were over on a visit. And I remember, like, oh, I remember seeing that earlier this year, earlier in the year. And he was telling me about it. He said, that's Paul McCartney's new album. It's great. It's Paul by himself. Oh, it's awesome. He was just raving about this album. Now, I don't know if he got that from his older brothers or what, but he seemed very into this album. And then he wanted to show me the inner gatefold, which he did. He opened this up, and I was entranced by this, folks. Why can't I get that? There we go. I was entranced by this inner gatefold. I must have studied and gazed at these pictures a gazillion times when I was young. He was going through all the pictures with me, and one of the things that struck me about when he showed me this was he picked out his 2 favorite pictures and said that Paul looked cool. That Paul was like the coolest thing on 2 legs. He was cool because these 2 pictures proved it. And one was this one over here. Okay, he loved this picture of Paul, and he loved this one of Paul with his guitar right here. Those 2 pictures he was really honed in on. They were the coolest looking things ever, and that has impressed me ever since he did that back all those years ago, 50 years ago, whatever it is now. And I still remember that moment with him of showing me this inner sleeve or inner gatefold, and those 2 pictures were his favorites, and Paul was the coolest thing. And just all the pictures in general, I just remember being intrigued by them, and just, I look at it now and it takes me back to that first time I saw this, and it's just such a wonderful memory. The animals, the cat, the dog, it's just a wonderful picture. So those are my earliest memories of this album. I didn't quite have the album then, though. I don't think I got this until late 1970, maybe around Christmas time. I'm not sure if it was a gift from my parents or eventually I went back to the store with my mom and picked it up, but it was around that time that I did finally get this. And I have to tell you, folks, I have been a fan of this album from day one. Going back as my memory serves me from being that little boy, I've always loved this album. I know some people, the critics back in the day slammed it. Here's Paul coming off of, Let It Be and the majesty of Let It Be, the song, and Long and Winding Road. And of course, Abbey Road was their last recorded album. And look at the majestic nature of that album. So here he was putting out this, a made-at-home album with just him with a little help from Linda. And I think he did the greatest thing in the world. I think for him to try to come out with a first solo album being as bombastic and as large as Abbey Road or some of those songs from Let It Be, I think it would have been kind of foolish. I think people might have looked at it like they never would have felt that he was able to keep up with the standard of the Beatles. I just think if he tried to compete with that, Abbey Road especially, people would have slammed him. That's just my opinion. And I know he got slammed anyway for this, but I think he did the best thing, to go back to the roots, laying a small, simple foundation of just him and his instruments, like I say, with a little help from Linda, and making a very rootsy, down-home album like this. I just think he did the best thing here. And I've always loved this album from day one. There's not a song on here I can't listen to, even to this day. People get burned out on certain records and songs. But this one, for some reason, I can put it on right now, sit down, go through the whole thing, and be totally pleased and happy about it. I just totally would enjoy it. It's that fun of an album for me personally. I love every song on it, even the instrumentals, even the rockers, the ballads, the quirky stuff. I love it all. I just think it's a great album. Another nice memory of this album for me is for the first time I ever saw Paul live back on the 89-90 World Tour. And my goodness, when he played Maybe I'm Amazed, it just, oh man, it blew me away. I swear, I would almost guarantee you I probably had a tear or two in my eye when he did Maybe I'm Amazed, because just a wonderful, wonderful song. Bringing back good memories right now, even talking about it. But just a wonderful wonderful piece of work here, I believe. And I even have a memory in 2005 on that tour when I swear Paul did the best live version of Maybe I'm Amazed I think I've ever heard. I'm not kidding. I saw him in Boston on the 2005 tour, the Chaos and Creation tour, when he really changed up the set list and did a lot of stuff he had never played live before. But when he got to Maybe I'm Amazed, I was nervous. I was like, oh my God, how's he going to handle this? Because, at that time his voice was starting to show a little bit of age, nothing terrible. And he nailed it, folks. It was one of the best versions I've ever heard. And I stood there in awe with my chin down on my chest, like, how did he do that? How did he pull off that? But he did, and it impressed me so much. It leaves an impression on me that I'll always remember and never forget that night of how he played that song and sang it so well. So that's it, folks. I just want to keep these Mangles McCartney episodes short, just personal feelings, thoughts, and emotions, and a little bit of a review because I love this album. And that's it, folks. I'm going to be doing Ram next, then Wildlife, then Red Rose Speedway, and we'll go from there, and I'll share little stories and remembrances for you. I hope you enjoyed this. Maybe you can share some of your thoughts and memories of these albums as I show them, and I appreciate you being here. Again, to all my longtime subscribers, thank you. To my new subscribers, I thank you. I really appreciate having you all in my life and in my life. And thanks again. Take care, everybody. Bless you all, and hope to see you again soon. Bye-bye.